Sawadee krap, happy Monday. After a bit of a scare last week with the spike in COVID cases, for me here in downtown Bangkok, apart from the nightlife being shut down, everything else seems to be going along as usual in restaurants and the gym I go to, although I'd say about 50% of usual activity, but I don't know if that's because people are cautious or because people are just out of town during Songkran. Maybe both. Anyway, let's hope for the best this coming week. And in this program, we have a ton of COVID-related news for you coming right up. Thailand CCSA has announced 985 new COVID-19 infections today, a rise in new case numbers, but not as drastic as in the past week when there has been a steady climb. In the past 4 days, there has been an increase of more than 100 new infections. Out of the 980 local infections announced today, most were in the northern city of Chiang Mai with 246 cases, Bangkok with 137, Chonburi, which includes Pattaya, with 92, Samut Prakan, just southeast of Bangkok, with 83, and Prachuap Khiri Khan, which includes Hua Hin, with 52. 10 new COVID infections announced in Phuket today. A total of 74 new infections since last Monday, when the first case was announced involving the three big parties on the previous weekend. These numbers are not included in the government's official tally today. 5,265 people are still in care or under observation, and 28,248 have fully recovered. Health officials insist that despite rising infection rates, there is no plan to allow people who test positive for COVID-19 to self-isolate at home. Currently, everyone found to be infected is admitted for hospital treatment, even if asymptomatic. The Department of Disease Control says the policy limits the number of patients who go out to transmit the virus to friends or family, thereby controlling the spread more effectively. They insist there are no plans to allow patients to self-isolate at home, despite reports that many hospitals have run out of beds. Field hospitals are being created in many areas, including Phuket, and the government is implementing a hospital plan whereby hotels will be used to house asymptomatic patients and those with very mild symptoms. It's understood that many of these facilities already serve as alternative state quarantine or local state quarantine hotels for those returning from overseas. They've also repeated that all Thais and migrant workers can get a free COVID-19 test, adding that 3 billion baht has been set aside for this. However, foreign nationals will have to pay to be tested unless they are identified through the contact tracing procedures. Spikes in cases, hospitals running out of beds. How is the government handling it? Well, Thai businesses and tourism representatives are expressing growing anger over the slow pace of Thailand's vaccine rollout and the limited number of vaccines on offer. Their frustration comes as other countries around the world begin to see encouraging results from their vaccination efforts. And while the latest rise in COVID-19 infections can be partly attributed to the presence of the so-called UK variant, businesses claim the biggest factor is the government's failure to vaccinate people sooner. As of today, only 0.5% of the Thai population has been vaccinated. Thailand is the 8th position among ASEAN nations, behind Laos, Myanmar, the Philippines, Cambodia, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Singapore when it comes to vaccine rollout. Israel leads worldwide, having administered 114 doses per 100 people, with 55% of the population vaccinated. So far, Thailand is wholly reliant on just two vaccine suppliers, the Chinese-made Sinovac and AstraZeneca. 2 million doses of Sinovac and 61 million of AstraZeneca have been ordered. The locally manufactured Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, under license, is hoped to start to provide vaccines in June. As a Thai Navy admiral accuses a Netflix documentary of using outdated and inaccurate information about the country's fishing industry, a number of global environmental experts are also chiming in with similar criticisms. Seaspiracy has been slammed for being full of inaccuracies and twisting the science behind the damage to the world's oceans, minimizing the role of climate change and plastic pollution. Brian Kahn, a journalist with an MA in Climate and Society, has written a piece called Don't Watch Netflix's Seaspiracy, in which he also accuses the documentary of resorting to racial stereotypes. He noted, The bad guys are Asians, specifically Japanese whale and dolphin hunters, and Chinese consumers of shark fin soup. Now the good guys, in this case, the experts he cites, are mostly white. The Marine Stewardship Council in London also agrees the documentary contains several inaccuracies, and the Plastic Pollution Coalition says the makers have cherry-picked quotes that will fit with their narrative. Marine biology magazine Hakai also weighed in on the matter, saying that though the film misleads viewers with oversimplified science, its real harm is that it ignores the history, culture, and systemic inequalities that are entwined with ocean conservation. Seaspiracy had its global release last month and has become one of the top 10 most watched offerings on the Netflix streaming service. The Royal Thai Navy specifically criticized its portrayal of the country's fishing industry, claiming it's based on outdated information. And in amongst a sea of bad news over the past week, a glimmer of hope for expats and long-stay travelers. The Thai government are looking into changing the long-standing 90-day reporting for people staying in Thailand longer than 90 days on a long-stay visa. But don't bust out the Sangsom just yet. For the last few decades, any foreigners staying in Thailand for more than 90 days had to report to Thai immigration about their current whereabouts. Immigration officials added an online alternative a few years ago, but its reliability has been patchy. As far as the Thaiger can tell, the online reporting has been down for at least 3 months. For hotels that have had to report the arrival and location of any foreign arrivals, the equally unpopular TM30 form, the online posting of this information has also been equally patchy over the last few months. The changes proposed form part of a strategy to boost investment and tourism revenue. Though there has been no official announcement made at this stage, the desperation for visitors and tourists that used to fuel up to 20% of Thailand's annual GDP is forcing all departments to look at relaxing earlier draconian or outdated paperwork in favor of encouraging more arrivals during the COVID era and after. Immigration officials have often cited the need to track transnational crime as the reason to maintain its strict and often inconvenient rules for 90-day reporting, TM30s and TM28s. Now, none of this has reached beyond proposal stage at the moment, but according to the head of a government task force investigating the proposals at the moment, there will never be a better time to bring Thailand's immigration and investment rules into the 21st century. And those are the top news stories for today. No need for a weather report today because I can tell you it's going to be rain, and more rain since we're now entering the rainy season, and hopefully that'll help improve the air quality all over the country as well. Stay safe, everyone. You're now up to date on the Thaiger. Sawadee krap.